Hi, my name is Jo Stockman. I am taking a look at a case study for Module 14 for course EDL 850, School Law with Fort Hays State University. First, I'm going to be taking a look at the case itself and working to identify the problem and performing some analysis. After reading the case study, things that I know are that a student created a web page because they had a grievance with the teacher. It was posted on the internet. There was offensive language involved and also language that was interpreted as a threat by the teacher. Additionally, the teacher was sent an email by someone giving them the link to the public webpage. Things that I need to know: does the material that the student posted constitute a threat? Would it be considered a threat by the courts, I guess? Was this webpage created at school, or was it created off campus? Was the web page shared with other students? And is this type of student speech protected by the First Amendment? After analyzing what I knew about the case study, I would say that the problem is, are the students' comments protected by the First Amendment, and can disciplinary actions be taken against the student by the school, and what disciplinary actions would be appropriate? Next, I'm going to come up with what I would do as a plan of action and what strategies I would implement. The steps that I would take to resolve this problem would include investigating the situation and trying to find the person responsible for creating the web page and the email. Even though the teacher had a specific student whom she suspected, further investigation would need to take place. I think that it would be important to apply due process to this situation. We can't just punish a student based on things that we suspect. So due process and investigation would be my first steps to resolve this problem. Once I found the student responsible, I would involve the parents in this situation. I would work to take appropriate disciplinary actions. And then I think it would also be important not just to take punitive actions, but then to follow up with mentoring the student in responsible online behavior. I think it is also a good opportunity to communicate the policy to all the staff, the parents, and the students. Hopefully they are already familiar or have heard this before, but I would make sure that everyone is aware of what the policy is. So my strategies for addressing this problem would, as I said, include investigation. I would have to get to the bottom of who committed this act of internet misuse. So who is responsible? Did they use school property? Was it something that they used off campus? I would need to interview maybe the teacher further, different students, and then I would intervene, and that would mean taking appropriate disciplinary actions, as well as working to resolve issues that prompted the student to behave this way in the first place. And I would implement disciplinary action and fair policies that are communicated to all the stakeholders in this situation. Then I'm going to be talking about how am I going to promote student success. In considering this situation, what is best for the students. I think that applying consequences that will serve as a learning experience. This is a serious situation where a potential threat is made against a teacher. I guess you really have to take a look at a whole situation, but from what I know, about the case study that we were given, I think it might be a great opportunity to mentor a student at this point, so that in the future there aren't, even heavier consequences for such behavior. So again, mentor a student in responsible online behavior so that there aren't future problems. And again, address the issues that prompted the student to behave this way in the first place. The case study made note that the students had a grievance, and maybe it wasn't addressed before, and it still needs to be addressed. Even though the student didn't handle it in the correct way, I would go back and address that issue. And then use this as a learning experience for other students as well, so that they can be responsible and behave appropriately online. When I was evaluating this case, I took a look at different cases that were similar or could pertain to a similar situation. I had to weigh, is free speech versus a school's responsibility to protect students and staff and have a safe school environment. I think one thing I found is that there are multiple cases that indicate student speech is protected under the First Amendment, and there are several cases where the court sided with the student as far as free speech is concerned. It looks like the courts are trending towards deferring to school administrations on making decisions about how to deal with students in certain speech-related situations. One thing that is not protected by the First Amendment, or doesn't appear to be, is inflammatory speech. So in this case, the student used speech that was on the internet to use threatening language against the teacher. The teacher interpreted it as a threat. The principal may have interpreted it as a threat. A reasonable person may interpret it as a threat, and in that case, it's considered inflammatory speech and not protected. I'm going to take a look at what issues might still need some resolution. First of all, as I examined this case study, things I had to weigh were free speech issues, what kind of speech is protected, and what should a school administration do to ensure that their policies are followed and that they have a safe school environment. What would be appropriate disciplinary actions to take, and how does an administrator or educator act ethically and fairly towards the student and the teacher and towards the other students in such a situation. As I examined this, it looks like there needs to be more clarity from the courts. There might be some ambiguity still there amongst the courts. These are important issues and come up more and more as we have more use of the internet, but more clarity is needed from the courts. We don't want to go down too much of a slippery slope where free speech is not protected. I understand inflammatory speech and threatening speech is in a different category, but I guess there have been instances where students' free speech rights might have been infringed upon, and sometimes the courts are not taking up those cases. And last, I'm going to take a look at how to approach situations ethically and with integrity. Taking a look at the program standards number 5, I want to approach this with ethical behavior in a professional manner and with evaluation skills. First of all, as far as ethical behavior goes, the school should have a policy in place that is clearly communicated, things such as acceptable use policies. These policies should be enforced with fairness and consistency. I think that everyone also deserves due process. So even students, maybe especially students, and in this situation, the student deserves some due process. That's why the investigation was important, to get to the bottom of the issue. And finally, a good leader would ensure that there are equitable practices and that policies are clearly communicated. I think a good leader will act with some evaluation skills. This type of situation, they have to weigh both the moral and the legal issues. In this case, not only the issues but also the consequences. It's important to maintain the school policies and make sure that they are clear and have good legal backing. And then I think it's also important just to make sure that you have a plan in place when situations like this come up. And finally, it's important to behave professionally. School leader needs to be able to examine the policy, ensure that it addresses the student needs. I think one of the core values to maintain is going to be integrity in this situation. And then from there, it's important to promote a culture of respect amongst the administration, the teachers, the students, and the families. Thank you.